It's not too often that you'll hear me talk about Photoshop plugins being game changing. This is a different case. What's going on, creative family? It's Dustin Valkema, and today we're talking about plugins from Retouch4Me, which I consider to be among the best automatic retouching plugins for Photoshop, and they have saved me loads of time and completely replaced parts of my creative process in post-production. Now, today we'll be talking about the Heal, Dodge&Burn, and Portrait Volume plugins, which, as we'll see, are quite amazing. Let's go ahead and dive in. Alright, here we are in Photoshop taking a look at the finished result of the action we'll be creating here a bit later on using the Retouch4Me plugins. So in my layer panel, I'll just go ahead and turn off our retouch layer off and on. We can see that it not only affects the subject's face, but the body and the clothing as well, which is vital for the type of work that I'm doing in the cosplay or composite photography space. We'll zoom in a little bit and we can check out the awesome job that it's doing here in the face. Skin texture intact. It's not over smooth. I have quite a few of these settings overdone. That's just for the type of work that I do. We can control all of this through the plugin. I'll go ahead and delete the retouch group here so we can start from scratch. So my normal process looks like healing, micro dodge and burn, then macro dodge and burn. And so we're going to repeat that process with these plugins. So the first thing I'll do is duplicate my background layer, and I'm going to name this Heal. Now we'll head up to Filter, Retouch4Me, Retouch4Me Heal. Now inside of this interface, we're going to just take a quick browse around so that we can get a lay of the land here. Now we have our canvas in the middle. We can go ahead and zoom in and out. We can click and drag with our left mouse button, and this is going to move the canvas around for us. And that's going to be the navigation. So middle mouse, scroll wheel, zoom in and out, left click and drag, and that's going to allow us to pan. At the bottom of our interface, we'll see that we have the zoom settings here, so we can zoom in and out of our image this way if we want to. Now at the top, we have a sensitivity slider. It's like a threshold slider for the retouching that is happening in our photo. So we can decide exactly how much of the details we want to be retouched. Now we'll leave the sensitivity at 100 for right now. On the left hand side, we have a before and after button named original. So we can click those off and on. Below that, we can see that we're currently in what is the pan tool. This is allowing us to move here. We have a brush tool, which is going to allow us to brush details on our model. And this is going to determine exactly where we want the retouching to happen. On the left-hand side, we have a slider for our brush size from 1 to 100 pixels. So we can go ahead here and make this a bigger radius for the brush as we start to move forward. Now we also have an eraser tool that we can go ahead and erase any of the brushed areas that we have. Now, down at the bottom, we have a masking tool. So this is going to invert our mask. So now, if we wanted our mask inverted so we can see exactly what's being retouched as a whole, we could use our eraser tool and go ahead and remove certain areas from the retouch here. So now that we know how those work, let's go ahead and enter our brush tool here. And we're going to just brush these areas back in so we can see what the full result is at the end. Now we can invert our mask again and enter our pan tool. Now down at the bottom left hand side here, we're going to see a set of 4 buttons. We have the auto button, the close up, kind of mid-range, and the full body length button. And what these are is it's really telling the software exactly how to read your image. I've found that with the full body portrait setting, it's actually reading quite a bit more detail, even in a closer up shot. And so that's what I use when I create my actions so that I get the most out of the plugin as I'm working with actions. And how we're going to visualize this is actually by heading up to the sensitivity slider. Mind you, we're on the full portrait mode now. These are the details that we're capturing here. We'll see that there's quite a bit happening. Now, if I go ahead and let go of the sensitivity slider, we'll see that if we go ahead and we click on the close-up portrait, it's going to recalculate the image here. And as soon as that's done, we can head back up to our sensitivity slider and hold that down, and we'll see now that there's actually less detail in the amount of healing that it's doing to the image. So I would rather get quite a bit more detail and then remove parts of that I don't need with something like a layer mask. Now let's go ahead and flip back to the full body mode here. And on the right hand side, the upper right hand corner, we're going to see that there is a make mask checkbox. This is what's going to allow us to work with this plugin on a non-destructive path. And if we go ahead and leave this checked, or if it's not checked for you, go ahead and check this. We can head down to apply in the lower right hand corner, and we'll see now that we have a healing layer that has all of the identical pixels removed. So we can go ahead and zoom in here. We can see the retouch that it's done on its own layer. Now let's go ahead and set up the dodge and burn, the micro dodge and burn here for this image. Now I'm going to create a stamp visible layer so that I'm taking into account the healing that we've done rather than just taking the unretouched background image. On this new layer, we're going to name this D&B. And now we can head up to filter, Retouch4Me Dodge and Burn. Now the interface is very similar from what we just dealt with in Heal. There are a couple differences that we'll take note of here. Now in the upper left hand side, we have our original, which is our before and after button. We'll see that we have our preview button now, which gives us a heat map of exactly what's being dodged and burned. And I think this is fantastic because it lets you see exactly what's happening in the image. So as we start to get towards the hot or the yellows in the image, that's where we're going to have the most dodging. And then the burning is going to be a bit of the cooler tones. So we can see that here. If we go ahead and bring our blend amount all the way up to 100, and we'll just bring our warming back down. If we go ahead and zoom into the face here, I want you to see where exactly some of these areas are that we start to get a bit desaturated. And that's what warming helps us with here in this top slider. Now, if we bring that to 0 and we go to preview, we can see that the areas that are dodged the most are going to be the most desaturated in this case. And so what we'll do is go ahead and let go of preview. We can warm this image or warm these effects up to maybe something like 35, or we can head back towards 40. And then we can bring our blend amount back to something like 100 and right in that range. We don't need to go all the way back down. In the top right, we'll see that we have soft light layer. This is where we're going to ensure that this is checked so that it gives us its own soft light layer to work with so that it's non-destructive. Let's go ahead and click apply. There we go. Now we have an awesome dodge and burn soft light layer. We can go ahead and change this to soft light blend mode. And there we go. Now we have our micro dodge and burn finished. So what we can do here is go ahead and create another stamp visible layer so that we're taking into account again everything that's happening below this. And we're going to name this layer PV for portrait volumes. Now we'll go ahead, filter, Retouch4Me, portrait volumes. Now, as soon as this comes into play, we can immediately see that there is a change. Now, I am at the lower left-hand side using the full-length portrait mode here. And what we're going to do is just go ahead and click on original. And we can see the great job that this is doing with not just the face of our subject, but also adding some type of dodge and burn volume to the clothing of our model, which is amazing. This saves me so much time in my workflow. Now let's go ahead and click on the preview section here. And this is going to, again, give us another heat map. Now the blending slider is going to allow us to increase the effect or decrease the effect by heading over to the left-hand side. I usually like to sit somewhere around 150%, maybe even 200%, and tone that down as I need it. Now let's take a look at the masking feature here. So what we're going to do is use the eraser tool. And with the eraser tool act, we'll go ahead and increase our brush size to 100 and say maybe I don't want to affect this shoulder camera right here, our subject's left shoulder. We're just going to paint this out and not have that affected. So now we can go ahead and move back into the pan and zoom, and we'll see that if we go ahead and check our before and after at this point, we are no longer affecting that shoulder. So let's zoom into the face a little bit. Now we'll check our before and after again. Take a look at the way that it's actually retouching the eyes in all of the details that we have in the face. I absolutely love it. So top right corner here, we can go ahead and make sure that this is exporting a soft light layer, and this is going to allow us to keep it, again, non-destructive. We can go ahead and click apply. There we go. Now, as with any other soft light layer, change the blend mode to soft light for this layer, and there we have it. Now we can see all of the different effects individually that were made here. And now say there's something like this dodge and burn. This is why the non-destructive nature is so crucial in a plugin like this. On this dodge and burn layer, we're going to go ahead and create a layer mask. We'll ensure that we have a black brush selected, and I'm just going to increase my brush size, and we can zoom in a little bit here. And now say I want to paint this out of certain areas. Maybe it went a little bit further than what I expected. This allows us to now take control of the results after the fact with using the plugin. Now let's go ahead and center our image again here, just kind of have that fill our canvas. And what we're going to do is open up our actions panel. So what we're going to do here is go ahead now and create a new action. We'll call this action RT4Me. There we go. Go ahead and click record. So this is now going to give us an automated process for all of these plugins that we were just using. So now in my layer panel, duplicate my background layer. We'll go ahead and name this Heal. And what we'll do is go ahead and place a layer mask on our Heal layer. So we can select our RGB thumbnail, filter, Retouch4Me, and Heal. And we'll make this process a bit quicker here. Now, as soon as this is finished, we're going to just make sure that we have our Make Mask checkbox applied, and go ahead and click Apply. Now, we're going to immediately create another stamp visible layer. We'll create a layer mask for that layer, and then go ahead and rename this to D&B, or Dodge and Burn. We'll head up to Filter, Retouch4Me, Retouch4Me Dodge and Burn. Now once the interface pops up, we'll see that we have the same settings as we did prior. And so what we'll do here is, again, ensure that soft light layer is active. Go ahead and click apply for our Dodge and Burn. We can take this layer and set it to a soft light blend mode. And then inside of our layer panel, create a new stamp visible layer. We're going to name this layer PV for portrait volumes. We'll go ahead and create a layer mask here. And now what we'll do at this point is go ahead and select our RGB thumbnail, head up to filter, Retouch4Me, portrait volumes. Make sure that our soft light layer is currently active here, and we'll click apply. Now we'll take this layer again and head down to the soft light blend mode. And now what we can do is go ahead and select all three of our layers, create a new group, and name this group Retouch, and stop our action. So now we have our action that is going to allow us to automatically create this retouching process for us. And now we have individual control with all of these layer masks for each individual layer that's being created. Now, what we're going to do here is actually move a bit faster through our examples. So what we'll do is we'll head to our next image, and here we have another nice portrait. We can see the retouching that might need to be done here. Just slight inconsistencies, some blemishes. I could waste a lot of time doing this. Let's go ahead here in our action panel. I'm going to select the action that we just created and click play. In real time, this took about a minute here, and we can see the job that this has done on our image. And we'll go ahead and zoom in just a little bit so that we can see what this looks like a bit more close up. There we go. And it's done a really good job of giving us a pop, maintaining the skin texture and detail that's there. This is amazing, and it saves so much more time. Now we will see that, as with the first example as well, we did have a bit of overlap that happened onto the background here. So once I'm running this action, in most cases, I'm going to have my subject cut out anyway. And so I'll mask my retouching layer with the layer mask based off of the mask of my subject. Now, in this case, we can go ahead and create a new layer mask on our retouch group. Make sure that we have a black brush selected, and we can just paint out these areas that we don't need. So now we can go ahead and just turn this off and on, and we can see that we're able to very quickly fix some of these areas that the software went a little bit harsh with. It's still not too bad. I'm extremely happy. I would rather spend 5 seconds doing this than maybe the couple hours that it might take to actually go ahead and recreate this entire process manually. There we go. This image is complete. Heal, dodge and burn, portrait volumes, layer mask, done. We'll go ahead and take a look at an image now that has 2 subjects in it. So the cool part about this plugin is that not only does it read one face, it can read 2 faces and read 2 bodies. It's amazing. So let's go ahead and see what happens when we run our plugin action. All right, now the action's wrapped up and we can see the results. So let's go ahead and look at our subject here on the left. I feel like this has done a pretty good job of a retouch here. It's cleaned up quite a bit of the skin. There are still areas here that I may head back into and heal those manually. But as a whole, this does a really good job of healing, micro dodge and burn, macro dodge and burn in a quick fashion. Now, this is using these same settings from the action that we created. So if we started to have issues and maybe wanted to go a bit further with this, we might want to go in and actually create our own set of layers for this, or just use the plugins manually rather than batching it with an action. Now, as a whole, it's done quite a good job. There are areas here, like on our subject on the right hand side, we might want to go back in and actually retouch this a bit more to smooth and even certain things out. But as a whole, this has done a really good job. Now let's go ahead and take a look here at our 4th example. We're going to go ahead and run our action. Here we go, the action has wrapped up. Let's check out the details. Before and after, before and after. Let's check out the skin texture. Holy cow. It's there. Hasn't over blurred or over smoothed anything. And this is nice now in the sense that it actually gives me control. So there are times where I have certain shots like this where the cosplayer might request to have a bit more of a retouch done, and being able to go in and create something like this so quickly and then maybe tone it down to something like 50% is amazing. So now we can see the before and after, and I didn't have to do anything extra with this. So this has done a really good job. I'm quite happy with it. On to the next example. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to run this action as is. And here we are with the result. So let's go ahead and take a look at exactly what's happening here on the face. Wow. That has done a really good job of cleaning up the blemishes for us. Micro and macro dodge and burn. You can do something like take a look at the hand here, and we'll see that the macro dodge and burn is looking really nice there as well. This is all stuff that I would actually do in my composite photography for these cosplayers, so it makes the job a lot easier and it cuts out quite a bit of time, being that there's already a lot of nice contrast. So overall, I'm quite happy with that. I may go in and change the eye color and really add some nice fiery eyes there, but as a whole, I am more than happy. So let's go ahead with the last example. What we're going to do is go ahead and run this action. And now once this is finished, let's go ahead and take a look at the difference here. Holy cow. This has actually worked out quite well. We can see here along the cowl, it's doing a pretty good job. Retouches the face and the lip here. Go ahead and browse the rest of the image here and see what's happening. This is actually really nice. And the best part about it is that now with these layers being non-destructive in their nature, we can go ahead and turn certain things off and on. Maybe zoom into the face here and see exactly what the Dodge and Burn did. It's pretty good, just evening out a little bit. In many cases for something like Batman, maybe I wouldn't use that so much. Now with the portrait volumes, let's go ahead and turn that on. And this is going to give us a nice pop. So with this being its own layer, let's go ahead and duplicate it, maybe a couple times here, and really make some of these areas pop. The mouth and cheek area here, we may want to go ahead and mask this off. So what I'm going to do is just grab my lasso tool and maybe feather it by something like 10 pixels. And then I'm just going to go ahead and mask off the skin part. There we go. We'll select a layer mask, black as a background color, and go ahead and delete. And now we can deselect. And what this is going to do, and we'll see that it filled our layer mask with black. What we can do here is go ahead and just swap out the layer mask here for the additional layers that we've created for the portrait volumes. And so now if we turn these off and on, we'll see that we have quite a bit more pop and accentuation in Batman's armor. Again, we can go ahead and maybe do something like a select subject. So we'll go ahead into our wand tool. We'll select our background layer and go to select subject. And this is going to allow us now to use the selection as a layer mask for our retouch group. And so now our retouch is only happening on our subject. Now with our demonstrations out of the way, let's talk about one thing, and this is going to be the pricing of the software or the plugins themselves. And there are quite a few more that we haven't even touched yet. So let's go ahead and take a look at Retouch4Me, and this is where you're going to be able to find all of the plugins. Now, you can use coupon code Create More to save 20% off of each of these plugins, or 5% if there's a current sale. So you'll get an additional 5% off. Currently, at this time, we'll see that they have a spring sale happening right now, and you can save an additional 5% with the coupon code Create More at checkout. Now, let's go ahead and scroll down the page, and we'll see all of the different plugins that they have in store as well as their cost. So we've talked today about the Retouch4Me Heal, the Retouch4Me Dodge and Burn, and then we've also talked about portrait volumes, which is down here at the bottom. And what we're seeing here is a price range between $124 and $149 USD without sales. They're currently on sale. Now, when I saw the price point for these, personally, I thought that they were pretty on point because it made sense for the way that each of these plugins work together, first of all, but then also saved me so much retouching time on the images that I'm doing. Now, for me, I can usually get away with a fairly rough and kind of dirty retouch, but this gives me just as good of results as a retouch that I might spend 30 minutes on in 1 minute. Now, I could always go ahead and spend hours on a retouch, But at what point do you really reach diminishing returns when you're doing that kind of work? For me, time is money. When I'm shooting large volumes of cosplay photography at different Comic-Con events, I need a solution that's going to work as fast as possible. And if for any reason my assistants aren't around to help out, or I may not be able to ship these out to a third-party outsourced team, I may need to do this. And the best part about it is I can click one button and 1 minute later have my image set up to take me onto the next steps of my creative process. Totally worth it for me. So that's going to wrap up this video. If you want to check these out, again, go ahead to Retouch4Me. You can use the coupon code CREATEMORE to get 20% off the regular price or 5% off the sale and special prices that are there. Create more, say less, and stay creative. I'll see you in the next video.